Please read the disclaimer. Holy smokus, it ain't no jokes. Is BlackRock ready to enter the arena and join the XRP ETF family? Or is this just another theory that will end up being a nothing burger? We'll talk about the current situation, price action of XRP, of Bitcoin, of the crypto market in general. We'll talk about potential of 2026 a little bit and how we are in maybe the lowest point that I've seen in a long, long time. And interesting take from one of the ETF issuers for XRP, talking about how he thinks that retail is running, but institution are buying. Hello, beautiful people. Shalom, money makers. How are you doing? It's Sunday Fun Day. All I ask from you is that you give me a beautiful smile to send out those good vibes. Smishity smash that like button. Let's try to get 2,000 likes on this video. I'm gonna give you a chance. I'm gonna play Candy Crush or something. Yeah, no, I'm doing nothing. That was my bad dad joke of the day. You're welcome. there might be more if it comes to me. Currently, XRP is sitting at $1.87, basically flat on the day. You can see here XRP hasn't had much of a movement here on Sunday, but we know that Sunday can be a tricky day for XRP. Moreover, right now, when there's not a lot of volume, low interest, low volume, low liquidity on exchanges. And so be ready for any types of action that could come today, going into tomorrow, into the new week. There isn't a lot of financial data that is coming out next week, but it is the end of the week, the last week. People are doing, tax things and buying and selling for tax purposes in some countries, depending on your tax code. It's very, very important, by the way, to talk to a tax professional in your country to understand tax liabilities and what you might need to pay or not need to pay, or how you can potentially tax harvest losses and things like that with how the market has been in the past few weeks and months, but also maybe offset profits in other places. Again, you need to talk to a tax professional. As always, this video is for educational purposes, for entertainment purposes. These are my opinions, not financial advice, not tax advice. Always do your own due diligence before you decide to invest, and talk to a professional tax expert or financial advisor if you are interested in any of those issues or those situations, right? Currently, if we look at XRP and we're looking a little bit at the weekly chart here, we'll get to the news, we'll get to BlackRock. Don't worry about it. Make sure to watch all the way to the end of the video, of course, where we can see here on the weekly that XRP is in this downtrend. You could say it started with the peak here in July, and ever since then, XRP has been on this slow weekly downtrend. You can see we were at the top of the stochastic RSI on the weekly, and we slowly have been coming down. Now, historically, this has happened before in the past, of course, and there has always been a recovery off of that. It may take a few months, but it happens. Again, we're talking about the weekly time frame, so this is a longer outlook here for the price of XRP. It doesn't mean for sure, again, that the price is going to recover, but we have seen this happen in the past, and this might be maybe the longest that it's maybe here, right, in 2022. It was for a long time on the bottom here. It's not out of the ordinary. Similar kind of action here for Bitcoin, although it had these different peaks, whereas XRP peaked here in July. Remember, it had that big run up. And so it will be very interesting to see where XRP goes from here. If we're looking at these technicals, right, that TradingView gives us, and we're looking at the daily, you can see that all the moving averages, the 10, 20, 30, 50, 100, and 200 moving averages are all giving us a red here, a sell. And this is very interesting. Of course, if you look at the graph, you understand why, right? The only one that is neutral here is Ichimoku, which it's always neutral. And Hull moving averages, which is a 9-day moving averages, is actually in the blue, a buy signal there. Whereas the indicators or the oscillators, right, are either giving a neutral, or momentum and MACD on shorter time frames are actually giving a buy. So this is very interesting. And Bitcoin is actually basically the same thing. Yeah, it is the same thing. This reminds us that Bitcoin and XRP are moving on similar cadences. Although if you look at the graph, they don't look exactly the same, but they're very similar in the moving averages and everything that's happening there. And just reminds us that right now there is a lot of manipulation. We'll get to what CEO of Bitwise said in just a second. And he's talking about actually the kind of shift where retail is running and retail is running out and institutions are running in. And that's an interesting scenario. Many times when institutions, by the way, come in, it's doesn't affect the price that much because they use tools to kind of bypass price fluctuations. We'll talk about that in just a second. So right now, we're in a very interesting point here at the end of the year with the prices of the crypto market with XRP price. Again, $1.87. I know a lot of people are disappointed with that price, but if I look back and I look at the year and I look at where we were, I'm not too disappointed. Again, if I'm looking long term on the price of XRP, and I've stated this before, again, this is just my opinion. It doesn't really matter to me if it's at 187 or 3. Of course, you could say to yourself, well, if I would have had my crypto in silver or gold, I would have been in a much better situation right now, or maybe in some stock that has gone up a significant amount, right? But we don't know. Hindsight is 2020. We didn't know. The anticipation was that the end of the year would be a very big crescendo for the crypto market, and that didn't happen. Hindsight, yes, maybe I should have shifted a little bit more assets this way or that way, but you can't trade like that and always think, oh, what I could have done. You can learn from mistakes. Yes, that is very, very important, but you don't want to dwell too much on what coulda, shoulda, woulda, right? Because if you focus too much on that, you're not focusing on what you could potentially do in the future. And I've learned that, okay, so you missed this one, next time you might get luckier. This time you had a bad luck, next time you'll have some good luck. And I've seen huge fluctuations in the past where I've missed out on things and I've got destroyed on other things, but then I've had assets that have gone up crazy, right? So it's all about balance, in my opinion. And I'm not angry at myself that I prepared for a rally at the end of the year, because that was what was anticipated. That's what everybody thought that was going to happen. It didn't happen. Could I have been smarter and said, oh, everybody's wrong? Of course. But there's 9 times out of 10 when you go against the grain, you are going to be the one that's going to be wrong. So higher probability is to prepare for best case scenario. Okay. That's, again, just my opinion, what I've seen that has worked, what I've seen that others in my life have done, and it's worked for them for a long period of time. Of course, day to day, week to week, things change, things are dynamic, right? But long term, this is what's worked for people in my life, for me. And so that's what I'm going to stick with it. Maybe there's better tactics out there. Could be, right? And it's up to you to decide what is the best tactic. Now, this is from Kobesi here. He says, going into 2026, it's going to be incredible, right? Trump is calling for interest rates to 1% and promising stimulus checks. AI capex is nearing 1 trillion per year, and precious metals are making history. All as mass deregulation is in full swing, and US and China are in an all-out AI arms race. Meanwhile, midterm elections are coming. The Fed has ended QT, and retail participation in capital markets is at record highs. Crypto should soon rejoin the asset owner party. Be excited for what's next and position accordingly. This is going to be interesting. Will we see similar things to what happened in 2020? Right? Last time we had stimulus plus low rates plus retail participation. We saw markets rallying. Will this potentially happen again? Again, we'll have to see. It's going to be interesting to find out. You see a lot of, I was just watching a crypto influencer last night, talking about, well, it was supposed to, but this is going to happen. And he's been saying, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, this is going to happen for 6 months, maybe a year, and it didn't happen. So now, because it doesn't happen, he moved his prediction, right? I don't know what's going to happen. Okay. There's a lot of people out there. They're going to throw out a lot of things. They're going to throw out statements because if they're right, then they can say, oh, I was right. And if they're wrong, they're going to say, well, I was wrong, but because this didn't happen or that didn't happen. Right. And so it's, again, you can watch other people, but I'm happy that you're watching me as well. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel, by the way, so you don't miss out on any new videos and anything that's happening. Ring the bell so you can be part of the notification nation and you don't miss out on any video that drops. Now, if we're looking again into 2026, US regulation align on crypto regulation. Sorry, US regulators align on crypto regulation. SEC and CFTC are expected to work closely on crypto regulations in 2026, with the SEC focusing on tokenization and more empowered CFTC on oversight. Again, if you go back a year and think if we would have had the same SEC with Gary Gensler and his people and the same people at the CFTC and the same people in the US government, right? Where would we have been in the market? Now, of course, there wouldn't have been all the craziness of the tariffs, and maybe we wouldn't have had October 10th because there wouldn't have been, that headline with Trump in China, and maybe we wouldn't have had that. But I truly believe that XRP would still be at 50 cents if that wouldn't have happened. So yes, the price is down on XRP. Maybe Bitcoin would still be at 50,000, right? We could have been in that range. So yes, it hasn't been ideal, but I still think that we're in a better situation because of the optimism and because of all the institution adoption, right? And all the ETFs and all the regulation. Think about it, right? Right now, if BlackRock wants to come and open a XRP ETF, it will be so easy for them. Whereas when they opened the Bitcoin ETF, it was 10 it's an expression, I forgot, it's something to do with hell. Right? They had to go through all the hoops, right? But and so now they don't, right? And so listen, they are aggressively staffing up their crypto ETF division to expand its product suite, it seems, right? And potentially launch more ETFs. Now, they have said that they wouldn't, but they're opening jobs in Singapore, New York, London, Dublin, Boston, and San Francisco. And the hires will focus on firmware digital assets initiatives, including crypto, stablecoins, and asset tokenization. Now, again, this doesn't mean for sure that we're going to see XRP ETFs from BlackRock. But it does tell us that they are upping their game in the crypto market. It could be tokenization related. It could be marketing maybe for their BlackRock ETFs that already exist, the Ethereum and the Bitcoin. But we'll see. We'll see. And listen, exchange supply are low. ETF inflows are good. They're positive, right? But the price of XRP is, still a dud. And it's we had. Bitwise CIO Matt Hogan on this show here on CNBC Crypto World, talking about how retail is running away. We're seeing this, of course, also on YouTube, where retail interest, right? Retail is who's watching the YouTube videos, is maybe at the yearly low, right? Whereas he says that institutions, right, are coming in. We're seeing Harvard that is buying crypto, there's buying ETFs, whereas retail is running away. And also, when institutions are quietly accumulating, many times they accumulate off market or they accumulate on the OTC desks. And then when you have that, it doesn't really affect the price of XRP, but they are removing more XRP from the market, right? And so when you have that situation, it could potentially cause a liquidity crisis, but I think we're still far away from that, right? I think a lot of things need to happen. Retail needs to go bananas. The price needs to go bananas. And then potentially we could have that kind of situation. If these institutions and the ETFs are accumulating, but there's not a lot of outside buying or buying on exchanges, that could be stumped a little bit. A lot of factors need to come together. And it will be very interesting to see how 2026 plays out. If you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, again, now is the time to do so. Remember that I will never contact you on social media asking you to sign up to anything or to send me anything. Those are scammers. I just found like 4 or 5 more fake profiles. So be careful out there. I'll never DM you. I'm never going to be sending you messages asking you to sign up. No, those are scammers. The only thing I have is the free Telegram group that is open to everybody. Link is in the description down below. My Twitter account, which is also in the description down below, and this YouTube channel. That's it. Okay, so be very, very careful out there. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time.